Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Not gonna lie, was not expecting to make this video today. This seems to sort of be the reoccurring pattern whenever Raven drops these surprise updates, but as I'm sure you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we did get a brand new surprise update today. Just first and foremost, it was not a major update. It's a very small one when it comes to patch notes, but it does have semi-big implications on actual gameplay, specifically the long-range meta, because the C58 was affected, and how that plays into the current long-range meta is probably, I would say, the king of said meta. So there are some changes to that. We're going to be covering that in this video, explaining what changed, how it's going to impact gameplay, so on and so forth. As we go through everything, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. Let's go for 3,000 likes on this one. Let's see if we can hit that. Haven't gone for a like goal in a bit. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, or if you haven't already subscribed, this is the place to be for everything going on in COD, whether it be news, updates, loadout info, tips. It is all right here. So feel free to subscribe. That way you can always stay up to date. Also, as always, gotta plug the Gamer Advantage glasses. Blue light glasses, if you guys haven't used them, are literally lifesavers. Like, I love them. They're my new favorite part of my day-to-day setup here. You sleep better, you get less headaches, you get less eye strain. They're incredible. I love them. Gamer Advantage does blue light glasses the absolute best. If you guys want to pick up a pair for yourself, Code WHosImmortal has got you covered there with a nice little discount. Now, first things first, going off of Raven's tweet this morning, we got a couple of new patch notes based off of the Season 4 Reloaded patch notes blog. We got our July 21st update. In general, they removed the report offensive chat button while we investigate a related crash, so you're not going to be able to report players for offensive chat. Apparently, that was crashing games. Had no idea that was a thing. For weapons, this is the main part of the update today, right? They fixed an issue with the C58 Royal and Cross 4x optic where it incorrectly affected recoil. As we talked about a few days back, this optic basically acted like the VLK 3x does on Modern Warfare weapons, just ×2 basically. Like the VLK 3x in Modern Warfare affects visual recoil, so it's easier to stay on target whether you're on PC or console independent or affected FOV. Using the VLK 3x on like the AMAX, for instance, made the weapon a lot easier to use because it was simply easier to stay on target. The recoil visually was not as harsh, whereas the 4x optic, specifically on the C58, reduced the recoil pattern by a pretty significant amount. When we first talked about this, I know a lot of people in the comments were saying, yeah, that's actually a pretty significant change in recoil. You got the 3x that actually has a pretty straight vertical pattern, quite a bit of recoil, especially after the latest update. The July 14th update ended up nerfing the recoil a bit on the C58. But then that was all negated by the 4x optic because it reduced it so much. It made it so easy to stay on target, especially at long range. So we are going to jump in a game here in just a second and sort of see what the recoil is like now, 3x versus the 4x, and see how drastic of a nerf this was. But there also are a few bug fixes in this update. They fixed an issue causing dead silence to remain active for an entire match if the player used it seconds before the pre-match lobby ended. This was, I think, primarily a bug because when we were able to actually use our custom loadouts in the pre-game lobby back last week, if you had Deady on, you could pop that and keep dead silence infinitely active throughout the entire game. So I think that was actually fixed because they removed custom loadouts from the pre-game lobby, but if that was still existent, it isn't anymore apparently. They also fixed an issue causing the sentry turret killstreak map icon to not move when placed on the train. Super specific issue. Then they also fixed an issue with the flavor text on various blueprints. I don't know what flavor text means, but they fixed it. Anyways, though, like I said, very small update today, but the C58 nerf, this long-range meta nerf with the 4x optic, is actually semi-impactful. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna jump in a game and see what this nerf is actually like. Oh, come on. I guess that's fair. There was an update that we're covering right now, so hey, you know, I get it. Per usual, we're back in our usual recoil testing spot. Hopefully everyone over there fighting is chill. I see a Bertha. But we've got two C58s. We've got our 3x one, and we've got our 4x one. I do have the precision reticle on both. Doesn't really change anything there, but we're about 20 meters out from this fence here. Probably 18 now because I moved in a little bit. This is the new 4x optic. Before, this had way less recoil than the 3x. But as we shoot here our 45 round mag, you can see it's pretty significant. It's almost spanning the whole length of this little door here. We're gonna start in the same place with the 3x. You can see the patterns pretty much the exact same, and as we go all the way up, these now are exactly identical. So the update did actually do what it said it did. We've got the 4x on the left here, the 3x on the right. They go up and to the right a little bit, and then they pretty much go straight vertical the whole time all the way up. Slight discrepancy here. You know, you can see I started slightly lower on the right side, so it ends slightly lower up on the top. But obviously it is the exact same pattern here, and honestly a lot more difficult to control when the recoil is that immense versus what it was before. You know, prior when we had the 4x scope here, it would stop about here, I wanted to say, in like the middle of the number 4 here on the door. So the recoil now on the 4x is going to be a lot more significant. How this is going to impact the long range meta? Well, previously everyone is using the 4x because not only do you get better visibility at longer ranges, I used this example last time, but if we look at this tree here, it's you know, we can stay on target here pretty well if we wanted to shoot at this tree across the street here. That's about what, 80 meters away, which is a pretty good long range distance, but the recoil obviously pretty difficult to control there. If we go ahead and do it here on the 3x, because we have that, you know, less zoom there, the tree is now a lot skinnier and in turn harder to stay on target. You got to work more to actually keep your bullets straight there. In a long range meta now, when you have other weapons like the Krig, which is fairly low recoil, the Farah, fairly low recoil, the C58 is going to be the harder hitting weapon, the heavier hitting weapon. It's going to have a better TTK, but it is going to be harder to stay on target when you're trying to control the recoil, which is a bit more immense now and a bit more difficult. It's a bit more extreme, you could say. So this, I feel like, sort of balances out the C58 in comparison to those other weapons. High skilled players who can easily control recoil, like obviously we can run back over here and look at the patterns again because they're relatively straightforward, but players who can control recoil well, I still think will lean towards the C58 because it is that heavier hitting weapon and the TTK is drastically better. But when it comes to actually controlling this, obviously you're pulling down into the left, down into the left, and then mainly just pulling straight down throughout the remainder of this. So it's a very straightforward and simple pattern, but obviously it moves a lot compared to other weapons. So it is going to be more difficult to use at a longer range, higher risk, high reward. That's basically how the C58 is going to work now. Now, when it comes to the general setup, I would say that relatively stays the same. It just comes down to what optic you want to use. So we go for agency suppressor, of course, that naturally is going to help with recoil a bit too. So that's a nice bonus to have. We go for task force, also helping out with recoil control, adding in better velocity and better range. Field agent, going to help out with control even more. I've been using the 45 round drum lately instead of the 55 round. The slower fire rate allows 45 to be sufficient, and you also get a much faster ADS, and it's a bit more snappy because of that. So I've really been liking 45. And then you can either go for the 4x scope, which, like I just said, is going to give you that extra zoom, so it might be easier to actually spot enemies and track enemies at longer ranges because they are physically a bigger target. But the recoil is still going to be the same as it is if you're using the 3x, which is a bit more zoomed out, and it doesn't obviously have that long range capability of allowing targets to be easier to track and allowing those targets to be, you know, larger and in turn easier to kill in a sense. But it really just comes down to preference, honestly. Really, the C58 is not a great medium range weapon compared to other, like what you'd use as sniper support, say the M4, the Ram, the Farah, the Krig even. Weapons like that are more geared towards those medium range fights because they are easier to use in those engagements, just because they're a bit more aggressive, they're a bit faster than, say, the C58 here. So using a 3x, I feel like is more built for those medium range engagements and not so much longer range engagements, 80, 90, 100 meters, because you just don't have the zoom capabilities because it's only a 3x magnification compared to the 4x here, which obviously, as you can see in game, is sort of a night and day difference. So it really just comes down to preference. I still think the C58 is probably the go-to rifle for high tier players, for high skill players, because of that potential damage output and just how strong it is compared to the Krig, which is probably second best, the Farah, which is in the top 5, so on and so forth. But like I said, it does impact the long range meta. It really balances out what you want to use now compared to before, where it was really just the C58. And also it does change up the setups here a bit, 3x versus 4x, more so preference based, but nonetheless this weapon is going to feel a whole lot different now. But that is going to wrap things up for today. Small update today with some larger implications on the long range meta specifically. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you are new to the channel or if you haven't already subscribed, I am always covering everything going on in Call of Duty. News, updates, loadouts, tips, it is all right here. So feel free to subscribe. That way you can always stay up to date. Once again, and as always, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.